and just like, let me talk to that guy. Mm-hmm. You talk to that guy, and I'm like, I'm interested. I'm learning about real estate. And he's like, I did real estate for 20 years. I'm like, yeah, you want to talk lunch and talked about it. And now you're just like hearing his story. You should start a podcast too.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a good way to interview the people that you're interested in talking to and punch above your weight.
Yeah. And document it along the way. Mm-hmm. Who's the best like interview guest you've had?
Cole.
That's a good answer.
It's a great answer.
It's a good answer.
It's a great answer. I only speak the truth. Yeah, it's nice to have options, I think.
Okay.
Don't get nervous. Don't get nervous. You're on camera. You're being recorded.
All right.
Anything you say that's you mess up on, I'm going to turn this into your ringtone. So if you really screw up, I'm going to memorialize it.
You got some cool ringtones for people?
I can do whatever I want. No, not entirely. I'm actually quite limited. No, so what I've noticed is, for everybody, guys, this is Cole. He's one of our interns. And this is actually kind of interesting because we're doing a podcast that's on the exit. We're wrapping up our internship program. This young, smart man has got a nice job. Now he's coming out with a full-time job.
That's right.
I don't really know if we had anything to do with that, but we're going to take some credit for that.
Yeah, no, you did.
Right on.
Yeah.
Good. Y'all got that. Y'all got that. That's recorded. That worked. No, so we were just on a discovery call before this podcast, and Cole was listening in, and so now you're caught up. Effectively, I think it's good to have options. We were sitting with somebody last week, very successful, done a lot of business, a lot of deals, and he was like, at the end of the day, like, in some ways, you guys may just want to follow the money, chase the money. So we had a meeting on Sunday, actually, of all days, with another investor at Burger King. Yes, I wore a hat.
Great spot. We
were literally driving to a separate investor meeting last Tuesday, Caleb and I, and we joked about doing a meeting at a Burger King. And we were like, have your way. And then I did a follow-up with this guy, and he was like, I don't care. We can meet at Burger King for all I care. And I'm like, Burger King. So, yeah, we took a photo. I wore the crown. I hope it works out. But nonetheless, yeah, so like that gentleman at Burger King was talking about, like, I'm really interested in Fall River. And this guy that we just had the call with, he's like, I'm in Fall River. I do business in Fall River. So I'm like, let's just go to Fall River. And if there's $1 million of ready to be spent somewhere by somebody who wants Fall River, let's go buy him something in Fall River, So yeah, obviously, like, for us as a company, the fund model is very flexible. It allows us to, like, as an overall company, be very flexible with how we move about things and make decisions, which is great. But we've also learned that's a little bit more challenging than just one-off deals. So if somebody's more interested in just a one-off deal, then, there might be a strategic partnership opportunity right there. And what I've learned is, even though, like, the fund model to us sometimes makes the most sense because it provides the most diversification and all these other things, sometimes other people it's too many moving parts start to get a little scary. So it works for some people. It doesn't work for other people. That's why I think it's important to have options.
So do you, like, change it per deal on, like, how much they're getting? Or is it like a set model that you follow and it's kind of like take it or leave it?
So it's a great question. I think at this point in our career, in our fund, we have an 80-20 split with some fees. I'm not opposed to an 80-20 split moving forward, even in, like, individual deals, because that's kind of what a lot of the big money's already looking at. They're looking like this as a private equity structure is in alignment with what most other private equity structures are. So I don't like, if I'm going to provide an option to the market, I don't want to necessarily be, like, too different. Right? Where, okay, it's a lower equity split for the partners. It's a higher equity split for me. Like, we tried that, and it didn't react as well. Sometimes it's about optics. like a lower equity split with a higher interest rate can equal the same amount of money as a higher equity split with a lower interest rate.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's about optics on like what makes people feel good. What does the market like? And it's one of those things that they don't really, so much business is trial and error, marketing, what's attractive, what do people respond well to? And I think at this point, just having 10 years in the business and doing a lot of different things is, in some ways, I start to feel like we're becoming more of just like overall stewards in relation to real estate with people. So like, we're not necessarily turning down third-party property management either. Like we started a pest control company. We're looking at more traditional real estate listings, buy, sell, commercial, non-commercial. And I think at the end of the day, it's all about like, you want to have a big net, and you want to, if someone comes to you, you want to be able to offer them something. And at a certain point, you won't be able to maybe do that as much, right? Like there's only so much you can do as a person. But when we're in a market that's challenging and a market that's competitive, it's good to have a handful of tools in your tool belt, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think.
So in like 10 years of business, what would you say is like the thing that you've learned the most and like your biggest mistake as someone who's like where you were 10, 15 years ago?
That's easy. That's a good question. Don't make the same mistake, Cole. Biggest mistake that we had or we did was not, there's two things, but the biggest one is not having a sophisticated, strong enough back end process for exiting deals. So when I mean exiting deals, you can exit them by selling the property. I buy it, I fix it, I sell it. That's a little bit more simple. Buy it, fix it, sell it. Buy it, fix it, refinance it. That can be an exit where you use short-term expensive money, 10, 12, 15%, whatever the money is, to renovate and reposition a piece of property to turn it into a cash flowing asset. Mm-hmm. But if you can't get that property out of high interest short-term debt, then that high interest short-term debt can kill you. So you got to be able to you can't use it forever, right? It's like so when it comes to refinance or selling is easier, but if it comes to refinancing, depending on what your balance sheet looks like, depending on what your tax returns, your other outside income looks like, there's a lot of other variables that will come into play when it comes to actually being able to achieve a refinance. A lot of times they talk about it's just asset-based lending. So like we're just going to look at the property. And sometimes some loan packages, depending on what your liquidity and tax returns and income look like, some are truly that. Others are asset-based lending, but also they're still substantially underwriting the borrower. And what else does the borrower have going on? So as a real estate development company, when we were doing a lot of deals at the same time, we were doing buy, fix, sell. We had so many buy, fix, sell properties going on that we couldn't actually achieve the refinance with the best debt possible here in Western Massachusetts. And we never wanted to give away equity in the past. We wanted to keep 100% control of everything. Mm-hmm. And what I know now, I would have made different decisions back in 2021. Back in 2021, we should have brought on a third-party partner. We should have given away the majority of the deal or brought on a sponsor and given up a big, healthy chunk of equity to get that refinance across the finish line, because we would have got it at the lowest interest rate possible. And we also would have gotten cash back, which then we could have used that cash on other projects in a better timeline. And, so much of this business is, the market's going to do what the market does. but you need to be able to make your moves inside the market as quickly as possible. So probably the biggest thing I would say that I learned is have multiple exit options and ways to get that deal across the finish line. So if you can't refinance it, an alternative is selling it. If you can't refinance it by yourself, an alternative is bringing in a partner, right? Mm-hmm. Now you have 3 different exit options.
So what is a partner doing for you in that deal? Like
they're bringing wealth typically on paper to help you qualify for the loan. So in our case, we had 7 different projects going on, development deals. So the bank looked at those development deals as big risks because they were like, those deals don't make money yet. Mm-hmm. I'm like, well, no, of course not. They're development deals. They're like, yeah, but we don't like that. Like, we like this deal, but we don't like that your balance sheet has all these other deals that aren't making money. So, as real estate, here's the double-sided like sword of things. Like, everybody loves real estate for tax purposes. It's a great investment vehicle for writing off income, mm-hmm. especially if you're a professional real estate investor. But it's a great investment tax strategy because there's all this depreciation, you can write off your improvements, all these things. So when you're dumping hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars into projects, the development deals that aren't making money, you don't have these epic tax returns with tons of capital gains because you have so many write-offs and you're continually snowballing and building. So you can have good deals that make money and still not have strong tax returns. It's actually kind of funny how challenging, and a lot of real estate people will laugh about this, like having a W-2, having some income in addition to your real estate strategy can substantially help you get loans closed. And it's you don't think that it might be as much of a hurdle as it is. So when we weren't able to make that exit as quickly as we were supposed to, we got caught in the aftermath of COVID, the supply chain issues with construction being really expensive, and then the interest rates went really high. And it was kind of this like perfect storm of challenges. I mean, everybody had challenges coming out of COVID, and a lot of people still aren't, we're still battling back from challenges. A lot of people are still kind of like course correcting from things going sideways. And I'd say that's probably the biggest lesson I learned, is have multiple exit strategies and do not be afraid to pull in a partner at any stage of the game. If you're having trouble buying the property, instead of not being able to do the deal and you get to own 100% of it, bring in a partner. Take the minority share of the deal, bring in a partner, relieve yourself of some of the financial constraints that maybe you're experiencing, and do the deal. Because there's always another deal. Like, everyone talks about there's no deals. There's tons of deals. They're everywhere. We don't have to look very hard to find decent deals, especially in our market. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of deals in Boston too. They just require a different strategy to do them. That's the biggest takeaway. Gotcha.
This is your podcast and I'm asking all the questions. Yeah. How does that make you feel?
Good. Ask better questions, Cole.
Thank you. Yeah, no.
Come on. Give me a hard one.
I mean, you told me what to learn, but you didn't tell me like what you focus on in your business model. Like, not make the same mistake twice.
Well, okay. I mean, that's all relationship driven. All of it. Everything, no matter what you do in any industry, the more I do it, the more I realize it's all people. Mm-hmm. Everything's people. When you're managing a tenant and you got to fix their toilet, like, happy tenants pay their rent. They don't want that overflowing toilet or that leaking toilet or that clogged toilet to go 48 hours. They don't want it to go 3 hours, right? It's all about like service. How can you service people better? And customer service is one of those things where people overlook it. But the moral of the story is it's relationships. Mm-hmm. So when you're looking at capital partners, those are strategic relationships. Some people will write checks without really developing a relationship with you if they just like the deal. It was certainly a little bit easier to raise capital pre-COVID when credit was very affordable, very cheap, and it was going around everywhere. We printed all this money. So there was a lot of money in circulation. And then once we kind of like felt the full power of the inflation, everybody was like hurting. Raising capital was different. And more than ever, it's become more relationship driven, right? People need to know, like, trust who they're working with, believe who they're working with, even if it's a sticky situation or you're working out of a challenging situation. Like in business, all that stuff happens. You know, you talk to anybody who's worth a couple $1 million and they'll be like, oh yeah, I had a dip, right? Everyone's gone through a dip. So business people aren't, building out of dips or building out of bad spots. I mean, that's where profit comes from. That's where you build. That's where you grow. So people are not opposed to that. But in this market, there's more competition, more people needing money. So more than ever, you need to build those relationships.
So what's the best way to build relationships then as someone who's not as established with a company?
I mean, I'd say
trying to get started.
Be yourself. People are going to like you for you. You don't have to change that. I don't know if you needed to hear that.
I don't think so.
No, just be yourself, be honest, and be excited. Like if you're excited about the deal and the project, like show up and be excited about the project and be enthusiastic.
Right. I'm saying like generally like meeting new people, like best ways to get involved with just meeting the right people. What people you think are the best to get involved with, who's not so good to get involved with.
I mean, I'd start inside your network, right?
Like you.
Yeah. I would start inside your immediate circle, friends, family, people inside your influence. We know a lot more inside of our own circle than I think we give ourselves credit. And even to my own, sometimes we all get stuck in, I need to look somewhere else. I need to turn over to this other rock. And the solution may be right there inside of your network. But if you're not shaking the trees and talking to them, then you never know. I mean, I think a bit of it is also just consistency and a little bit of persistence. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Persistency. This gentleman that we just met with, it was a decent call. Like now we're going to do lunch because FaceTime, right? FaceTime is better than phone calls whenever possible. And then I think it's really just a nurture campaign. It's follow up. I'm not, I'm real, you're real, I'm not going anywhere. And if you consistently show up and you follow through, then you'll build that relationship. And a lot of times those people will open doors to other doors for you. And it's kind of like, it's like a web. You connect with one person and that web might sprawl into like 3 to 5 other people. For how do you get the right type of people? I think some of that is you can focus on the types of rooms you go into. I think it depends on what you're looking for, right? But at the end of the day, networking is going to be just key. And in the beginning, when you're like building your business, you're gonna shoot a lot of different directions, and some events might be great, some events might stink. You might meet some, you never know, because like a lot of these really successful people, like, they go out to things. They don't wear a big sign around their neck that says I'm worth 100 million,
right?
Or I've done this. And then I would ask your friends who actually knows those people. Like, hey, Mom, do you know anybody really rich?
Yeah.
And just like, let me talk to that guy. And you talk to that guy, and I'm like, I'm interested. I'm learning about real estate. And he's like, I did real estate for 20 years. I'm like, yeah, you want to lunch and talk about it? And now you're just like hearing his story. You should start a podcast too.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a good way to interview the people that you're interested in talking to and punch above your weight.
Yeah. And document it along the way. Who's the best like interview guest you've had?
Cole.
That's a good answer.
It's a great
That's
answer.
a good answer.
It's a great answer. I only speak the truth.
So you mentioned like following the money in, someone gave you that advice, and now obviously I know your business model, but you've come to Holyoke, Massachusetts.
Yep.
How do you diversify outside of here to like follow the money, but also stay involved in your business model and buy box?
Good question. So I think a bit of it depends on the type of project you're going to get into. Because if you're going to take on some crazy development deal or heavy lift renovation project, why are you smiling like that?
I was just thinking about that answer. It's a good answer.
if you go into, a neighborhood or an area where you don't have any, you don't know people, you don't have a team, like a bigger project's going to be more hard in a neighborhood you're not familiar with. Fortunately, we've got quite a few friends in Fall River. So, we also have quite a few subcontractors that were part of our Boston days that live on the South Shore over there. So we do have a bit of a team that already lives on that side of the world that we have a relationship with. Mm-hmm. They just don't work here. So in some ways, like we can mitigate a little bit of that. If you're doing a more type of property, if you're doing a deal, you could always partner up with a local management team that like and trust out there. We've got a couple of friends that do deals in Fall River, so it's a possibility. We'll talk about it. I mean, we certainly prefer to invest in our own backyard where we have more control. Mm-hmm. That makes more sense. But one of my mentors actually told me, when you're looking at a different market and you're looking at an apartment deal, he said, always buy 100 units minimum at a time. And I thought to myself, I was like, well, that sounds crazy. That sounds like a lot, And he's like, it's easier than you think. Maybe we'll, these are good deals for syndications, one-off syndications. Go pick up 80 to 100 units at a time because you can afford to staff the property with 100. You can afford to have like a little office staff, a maintenance, and like it's all on site. Whereas we have 10 unit buildings, right? And we have some staff that can bounce around. So it's kind of like the same thing, but it's certainly, it's an understandable, scalable model when you look at 100 units at a time where you can actually afford staff to be on the property and maybe even live at the property. Mm-hmm. So, that's something we're thinking about if we explore different markets, going in and, buying a really small deal with somebody that we can't adequately service, that doesn't make sense. If we were going to go into a market that we don't really work in, it would have to be a big enough deal to where we can ensure that we staff it appropriately. Because property management and construction management are by far the most important parts of your business. I mean, you need to buy the deal right, but then you also need to be able to operate the deal.
Right. So that's why you guys became general contractors. And what were you doing before that? Just hiring people one at a time throughout?
Yeah, we got caught with our pants down with one general contractor on multiple properties.
Was it like he messed up bad, or what do you mean by that?
He was struggling with company financials inside of his own business. So there came a point to where we were on a project. He was on multiple deals with us at this time, but there came a point to where, we were paying, and then these tradesmen were showing up and they were saying like, I haven't been paid anything. And we were like, oh man. And then that kind of just like more and more of them came out of the woodwork. And we're like, why are we on our third plumber? Why are we on our third plumber? Like, things happen, but we were on our third plumber in a lot of deals. I'm like, what's going on? And then we realized that, this guy was struggling, and like money that was being paid for deals was going to he had a cash flow issue of doing other deals with other deals. So money would come here to pay here. And then we ended up kind of at the end being out of like money because we had these extra expenses that were supposed to be paid that didn't get paid. So now we had to work through these like personnel challenges. And then you have people that are putting liens on the property because they're like, I'm not getting paid. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're signing lien waivers with the contractor. So it's like, then it just opens up this big kind of can of worms to where you're like, okay, like how do we fix this? Like, is litigation the route that you go? And you can litigate, but litigation's very expensive, is very slow. You may spend more money litigating than the money you actually lost. And more than anything, it's the time that messes you up. Like if you get delayed on a project, like the contractor who could screw you over for 20 or 30 grand, right? Let's say he screws you over for 20, 30 grand. But if that project costs you $8,000 a month to hold, and then he delays you by 4 or 5 months, like the hold time is just as expensive as the mess up. So it's like part of it is, as a developer and a company, like you almost want to have enough powder, enough money in the reserves that like if you take a blow like that, you get beat up, you have enough to, okay, cut off your arm here, bring in new money, fix it. That way you don't get caught with this long hold, because the hold time can mess you up more than the cost overruns.
How much would you allocate for like a safety net per job? Like I guess depends on the job, but like for family building.
Because that's what you're thinking about buying.
That's right.
If you buy a 4-family with FHA, like you're going to buy something in decent shape. Like you'll be able to do, like you should be able to, like if you move into one of the units and it's kind of like old and dingy or whatever, you can probably like fix it up over 1 to 2 months. And then, if you have good rapport with your tenants, you can say, listen, like, your unit's kind of beat up. We're a little below market. Let's say market rate rent is $2,000. You're like, hey, you're paying $1,200. What if I let you move into this unit that's a little bit nicer for $1,600? So you're a little under market rent. I'm making $400 more. And now when they move into this nicer, newer unit, you go into that unit, you turn it over. I mean, you could probably, like, if you have the money, you can probably turn over little apartment upgrades in 30 to 60 days.
Per unit?
Per unit.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And you would, so like if you move into the first one, you would rent out the other 3?
Yeah.
At the same time?
Absolutely. You're probably buying it with 3 occupied and 1 vacant.
Okay.
In your scenario.
Right. Have you done that before personally? Would you own?
3-family in Quincy on Wollaston Beach.
Gotcha.
Yep. Bought it for $530 and traded for over $9 a couple years later.
Okay, wow. And that was just doing the same thing you just described?
Yeah, so I actually moved into one of the units. I never left the unit. I fixed it up. I always stayed in the unit. I had another long-term tenant downstairs who was awesome. Shout out, Gary. Love you and miss you. He was on the first floor. So he was there before I ever bought the building. So like he worked with me on rent. I worked with him on rent. I wasn't like making a fortune here. It was like almost living for very little money at the time. And then I had one unit that I ended up turning over twice with new tenants. And that's the good thing about those types of FHA deals. They're a regular homeowner can qualify for them, like you. Like a regular guy or gal can qualify for that home loan, and it's not a specialty commercial loan to get into multifamily. Those exist, they're different. But the FHA house hack is kind of like the simplest, easy way to get in. With the least amount of money too.
Right. And how many times did you do that before you
just
started up with Harrison? Or were you doing that?
Harrison was there with me at the very beginning. Harrison was with me from the closing of that property.
Okay.
Yeah, he actually helped. Pay to get it closed. And then he moved in a couple of months later.
Wow.
Yep.
Nice.
We were real estate roommates.
In a different property?
No, same property.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what caused you to start the buy, flip, sell model? Like why'd you get into that instead of buying properties and holding them for a long time?
Yeah, I think a lot of people get excited about the flip train. I don't know. I would tell people to go into the multifamily housing market and go that route first and foremost. I would say focus on your income, get good income, keep your income, and put your income into real estate. And you can leverage that income and you can grow that income and wealth over time. Keeping your income in the beginning is a great idea compared to borrowing more, because if you borrow more, then you pay more interest, and then that's fine, but then you're forced to achieve a higher return. Whereas if you can focus on strong income, put that income into real estate as a capital preservation tool, but also a growth tool, then you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting a depreciation, you're getting a return on your investment. It's also tangible, so it's not going to go anywhere. Biggest challenge about real estate is it's illiquid. It might not always be the best time to sell it. Yes. Did you sell it today? Yes. Is it the best time to sell it today? No. Is there a better time to sell it? Yes. So the challenge can be holding on to the asset, depending on where you're at in your career or the project is. The challenge can be making the exit at the appropriate time. Like some people, here's a good example. A lot of people that bought houses in COVID, when interest rates were really, really cheap, interest rates are not cheap anymore. So a lot of people are locked in. Like they're not going to refinance their house into an interest rate that's twice as expensive as it is currently. Yeah. That doesn't make sense. Yeah. If the interest rates do come down, then the time to do that refinance is better. So in the same way, it can work on the reverse end of things as well, from disposition, from selling, from capital refinancing it to get your best rates. In 2022 or 2023 really, leverage sucked, prepayment penalties were high, and leverage sucked, interest rates sucked, and prepayment penalties were high.
Prepayment penalty is when you pay off your loan.
Correct.
You pay extra money.
Correct.
Towards the principal.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So keep going.
Yep. So depending on if you got into a loan in that time frame, it's in some of our properties have those types of loans where okay, we have a deal. It was the best deal we could get at the time in that year. But it's that deal is now illiquid for the next 4 years or 3 years as a result of it, right? Because we have those prepayment penalties. So that deal, while it's a good deal, is going to remain illiquid for a period of time until we can make the exit.
Right. So it's not necessarily bad, but it just hurts the company overall because you can't grow the money as fast as you would like.
Or I just don't have access to it. Right. That can be the biggest challenge when it comes to illiquidity. Is it can be there, you just might not have access to it.
Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right.
So going back to tenants, I guess, still with the tenants you have in your properties today, how do you handle them if they're not, if you don't have a good relationship with them, but how do you start it off to make sure that you do build a good relationship with them?
I think whether you're coming into a property with tenants or you're starting with new tenants, I think at the end of the day, be kind. Be kind, communicate effectively and clearly. And I would say make sure you're really well documented when you come in. I think we're all humans at the end of the day, and we can all reason and understand. So if you're coming into a property in a distressed situation, you're talking to a tenant who's living in a distressed situation, a lot of times you'll be welcomed. Thank you. There's a landlord coming who says he's going to fix things. It's really important as a landlord that you follow through on what you say you're going to do with your tenants, because at the end of the day, you're the steward of the most important part of most people's livelihood, which is their housing.
Right.
Most people spend at least 50% of their life inside their home. So it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big deal. Whether you own it or not, it's a big deal. This is where I live. This is where I'm supposed to feel safe. So when you're a landlord, you want to come in and you want to make sure that you're doing what you say you're going to do. You're making sure that you're kind. You have to have some customer service. And then you want to make sure that you're really well documented.
Mm-hmm.
Because life and things happen, and sometimes people remember conversations a little bit differently, and you want to make sure that you have that track record there that you can fall back on.
So do you just do that through email, like text, just something that you can?
So yeah, written communication strong. We do our calls for property management on a recorded line, right? So whenever they call in, everything's recorded, and that's helpful. Mm-hmm. In the event push comes to shove and you're forced to go to some type of court, you can have this kind of paper
just keeps
trail.
you safe. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got it.
And it keeps them safe too.
In what ways?
Well, if you're talking about, hey, I have an issue, okay, I'm going to show up on this day, and it doesn't, it's recorded.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have to explain, why didn't you show up? And maybe there's a real reason, maybe something happened, the problem becomes like, oh, did we not alert them for whatever reason? But it's, you try not to have that actually happen. You try to stick to your appointments. But it's good to have that paper trail.
Gotcha. And then, so when you come into, like, you buy a property that already has tenants, they pay what they were paying before, or how does that work with like payment of, you have to wait till their lease is over to like upgrade the amount?
Yeah, if they have a lease. Yeah. So if they have a lease, they're going to be paying that through the term of their lease. Let's say the rent is $1,000 and market rate rent is $1,500.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the best thing to do is, if you have a conversation with them, like, this is going to be a little different for each investor, developer, landlord. It's important to remember that these are people. So like, if rent can be $1,500 and they're paying $1,000, like coming in on day one and being like, I'm jumping your rent up to $1,500. Can you do it? Technically, yes. Could it put this tenant in a really challenging position? Yes. And then are you potentially causing a housing crisis issue for a family? Yeah.
Right. So what's like a fair way to avoid that?
So a fair way to avoid that is to underwrite the deal with the intention of stepping up rents slowly. So if you say, listen, I'm going to increase the rent, $75 year over year for the next X amount of years, like, you're still kind of far behind the ball on what you could get, but now you can come to the tenant with more of a, like, I've budgeted for this and this is what I'm going to be doing. Like, I'm not going, like, you have to understand that, like, the world we live in, insurance is expensive, taxes is expensive, all these things that the building requires to run. Like, if we don't have enough money to cover that, then we're in an issue where we can't provide quality service to the building. And most tenants understand that, especially if you're coming into a building that's substantially under market. Well, they're going to be like, yeah, this building's sucked for the last 15 years. I'm like, well, yeah, there's no money. Mm-hmm. The landlord has no possible way to make enough money to fix it.
Right.
That's just a reality with the rent you're paying. So it's like, do you want new appliances? Do you want your kitchen fixed? Do you like all these issues? It's like, yeah, we'll fix them, but you have to pay a little bit more of a rent so we can actually afford to maintain them, much less improve them. Mm-hmm. So you can go in with a budgeted model to step up the rent. You can also go and sit down with that tenant and be like, listen, like, Alex, it's nice to meet you. You have a lease. It's good through next August or whatever it is, right? But like, I just want to talk because, right now the market rate rents for the apartment are $1,500 and you're paying $1,000. I'm not trying to like kick you out or make this, impossible for you, but it's, can we maybe meet in the middle, say like $1,250? And that can be a nice way to kind of get a gradual increase that they can afford a bit more. more predictably. And then you're still leaving some equity on the table for them, right? So they know they're still kind of getting a deal. You're getting an immediate win. And it really comes down to making sure you're just underwriting for it in the acquisition, because you don't want to get into a deal and then just be forcibly removing a bunch of people. It's not, can you do it? Yes. Are you actually solving a solution above and beyond increasing the net operating income on an Excel document? No. So we prefer to go into deals that are vacant, because I would rather just improve the quality of the housing issue and then give something that's more towards the top of the market or market rate, and then giving that market rate option to the market. And now we're not displacing anybody. We're actually adding housing as opposed to displacing. So we try not to buy things with people in them, if possible. Or if we're going to buy something with people in it, we're going to be looking at a more modest growth trajectory over time, if you go in and jack a bunch of people up from $1,000 to $1,500 overnight, you're going to, they're going to protest you.
Yeah. Probably just won't be as profitable because they won't end up paying it.
Yeah, and if they stop paying it and they dig their feet in, and now you are forced to go an eviction route, like you can't even reason with them to pay the rent, and then you're forced to go the eviction route, you waste 3, 6, 9 months.
And money, a lot of money.
Right, so now you're paying the interest, the taxes, the insurance, all the holding expenses, and you're losing the 6 to 9 months of rent that you could be making. And that, those two costs are, that can set, in the case of a small multifamily property, performance like that can set the building's financials back for a year, 2 years before you're at a break even.
Right.
So that's the most dangerous part about the smaller multifamilies, is that if one unit is delinquent, you can't sustain. Like that's the biggest risk that comes with 4 families and below. 4 families are better than 3 families. 3 families are better than 2. There's more insulation. There's more tenants. In the multifamily world around here, like if you can get a deal that's, 15 units and 1 or 2 aren't paying, you have more.
Yeah, more leeway.
More cushion. More cushion.
Gotcha.
So, but we prefer to go into empty deals. So, Cole, thank you for being part of this journey with us. What has the last 2 months been like?
It's been a lot of fun. Got to meet a lot of new people, which was good. Learn a lot about the real estate business, which was honestly the best part. Just got to learn a lot about a lot of different things. And that was just interesting, like your whole business model itself, but also where you put your energy towards and what you focus on was just interesting, because like you said, real estate is just, there's so many different areas to make money in this business, but it's just cool to see what you guys focus on and what you deem the most valuable.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a good experience as an intern, just to see what you're doing as a new business and kind of how you're operating was all very interesting to see. Yeah. What was your favorite part about having the interns here?
What I liked the most was our days inside the office. And I think, the biggest takeaway I had if I did this again is it would be more in person, less remote, because it's harder to maintain a culture remote.
Yeah.
How can you, right? It's like, it's just, you lose a bit of that.
Yeah. The rapport.
You lose the rapport.
Yeah.
And young people are fun. I'm young.
Way
young.
fun.
Yeah. You don't think I'm young?
I'd say you're younger.
Amazing. Y'all see that? Yes, that's how they talk about us now. That's how they talk about us now.
He's on TikTok. You're hip.
He's on TikTok.
I'm not on
he's doing
TikTok.
dances. He's lying to you on camera. He's I saw him. It's a bedazzled.
How
shirt.
young are you?
34.
34.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's young.
Yeah.
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 I mean,
do yourself a favor, bro.
Yeah.
At least 100 people are gonna watch this. Most
Like
of them older
20?
than us.
That's true. Actually, I'd be nice to the. Young
You guys
people
want to
out
hire
there.
this guy? His name is no longer Cole. No, I'm just- yeah, man, it was exciting. So, and you got a job. So you're starting at the end of the month?
Yeah,
That's
starting in September.
Full time.
Full time school, doing my MBA online, and try and stay involved in the real estate market
That's right.
as
That's
much as
right.
I can.
We're gonna look at some licensing opportunities, right? Become a real estate license.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm excited. Thanks for being part of this. Thanks for coming on
Yes,
the
sir.
WREI Talk Radio Show. This is definitely not the end. And
Thank you very much.
we'll see you guys inside the next episode. Peace, love, share with your brother, lover, mother, and father. Ciao.
Peace.
Cool.